You're listening to Ecto Portal, a journey into the unknown with Anthony Anderson and Verna Wilson.
I hope that you are seated comfortably with the light turned down and the curtains drawn.
Hello once again to another journey into the unexplored, the unexplained Ecto Portal. I'm Anthony Anderson, your host, and I'm here with my co-host,
Verna Wilson.
And today we have a show that many people would never want to do in their entire lives, but apparently some people have.
Yeah, and the show kind of gives you the moral about watch what you wish for.
That's right. Would you sell your soul to the devil for any reason whatsoever?
Yeah.
Apparently you would.
Some people would.
Apparently there are people that have done so, and that's what we're going to share some of those stories today is some of the people who have felt it, the need and the absolute desperation to have to sell their soul to Satan in order to get out of whatever predicament they're in.
Right, and we can see how easy it is or how complicated it is, but we're going to get into that.
Exactly. You want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah. So this came from an article by Elizabeth Tilstra, and here's a list of people who actually have sold their soul to the devil. The first one is Saint Theophilus of Adana. And many people, they view St. Theophilus, also known as St. Theophilus the Penitent, as the first man who sold his soul to the devil in exchange for social or political advancement. So the story goes that Theophilus was unanimously elected to become a bishop in the 6th century. He declined the offer out of humility, and another man who accepted the position, and he promptly made Theophilus' life miserable. So regretting his decision, Theophilus summoned a sorcerer who helped contact the devil. The devil was more than happy to rectify the situation, provided that the cleric renounced Christ and the Virgin Mary, and a contract spilled out in his own blood. Theophilus accepted the demands, signed off on the pact, and ascended to the title originally offered him. However, as the years go by, doubt crept in, and Theophilus begged forgiveness from the Virgin Mary. He fasted for 40 days, after which time the Virgin reportedly appeared, and she rebuked him. Theophilus pleaded for mercy, and she left with the promise that she would talk to God on his behalf. After Theophilus fasted for another 30 days, the Virgin Mary returned with the message that God had pardoned him. 3 days later, however, Theophilus awoke to find the bloody contract placed upon his chest. Satan refused to relinquish his hold on the cleric's soul. A terrified Theophilus sought counsel from another bishop, who burned the contract and freed him from his internal pact. Overwhelmed with joy, Theophilus died on the spot, relieved to be free.
Okay, so let's talk about that one before we move on.
Yeah.
We'll just talk about them after each story.
Sure.
So I obviously, I don't think this is a literal story by any means. Mm-hmm. I think it's an example of be careful what you wish for. Even though he was released from his contract, he still died on the spot. So, and in the end, he didn't really achieve and get anything, even by breaking the contract.
Right. He got the title he wanted, but...
Can you imagine fasting for 75 days? Would you?
No.
Would be there? That's probably why he died on the spot.
It was probably a lot of guilt connected with all of this, and I understand that church titles and were very political back then. The church was a very political place to be back then.
The church is. You know, it's interesting. The church is like spiritual politics.
Yeah.
a lot. Mm-hmm. And it has just as much, if not more, power than politics does.
I can imagine the spiritual politics going on around that time.
Oh, and that's probably why this story comes from that. It's a grave example of a contract written in blood.
What makes me wonder, this is a religious man who's working for the church. Why would he seek the devil rather than asking God or the saints to help him get his title?
Or just
it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe someone higher up in the church that could just sit and talk with him and say, what should I do? What should I have done? And how can I get out of this?
Right. Well, he had to have been, the thing that I feel about this, he had to have been so desperate to summon a sorcerer, because if it was known that he summoned a sorcerer, which I think a few key people did know, you can get in trouble for that back then.
And this is a question that you probably should ask. How does he know how to summon a sorcerer? That's a better question.
Well, I think I would know the answer to that. There were a lot of sorcerers back then who had a practice. They didn't make themselves very public because, of course, they can get burned. They can be burned for heretics.
Exactly.
But they were known in the villages and towns and cities, so he probably knew where to find one.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I don't know, this seems pretty desperate to have to summon a sorcerer and make a pact with the devil.
Exactly. Why couldn't he just pray for it in the first place?
I have no idea.
So he, like I said, his state of mind had to have been very desperate if he had to go out of his way in that time to summon a sorcerer.
So I'm thinking, Theophilus, you should have sought out a psychiatrist and not the devil.
Or you should have just prayed and not let the guilt overtake you.
Yes. I think there were other options that were probably available. You just chose the worst one.
Okay. Now the next one. The next one. Go ahead and introduce him.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about Robert Johnson. Now, Robert Johnson was an American blues musician from the early 20th century, who, as legend has it, acquired his musical prowess from a midnight deal with the devil. Now, he was born in 1911. And Johnson grew up along the Mississippi Delta, and as a young man he yearned for the musical greatness, and one night took his guitar to the crossroads in hopes of conjuring dark forces. The devil appeared and took Johnson's guitar. He played a few songs, and then he handed it back, granting the young musicians complete mastery of the instrument. Now, the story thus explained Johnson's extraordinary skill. It also led to rumors that Johnson's drooping eyes spoke of an infernal connection, and that he turned away from his audience while performing to hide the presence of evil. So Johnson did little to discourage such tales. If anything, he fanned the flames with lyrics such as, "Early this morning when you knocked upon my door and I said, 'Hello, Satan, I believe it's time to go.'" In 1936, Johnson died under mysterious circumstances at the age of 27. Some say he succumbed to syphilis, others poisoning, whereas others contend it was the devil himself collecting his due.
There's an old hoodoo spell where you do a spell at the crossroads, because as you know, a lot of hoodoo was based in rural areas.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly how the spell goes, but I'm sure some of our hoodoo guests that we had in the past would know this. But apparently you write a petition and you place it in a bottle and you put some herbs in there and then you place it at the crossroads. And at the crossroads, and then you summon the spirits to come and bring you what you want. They say it's the devil, but I'm not even sure if he actually summoned the devil, because that's an old spell that you can use, but it's not necessarily summoning the devil. It could be you can summon whatever spirits you work with, or some people summon God himself to do that.
Maybe it was a demon and not a devil, not the devil.
It could be, or it could be a demon, yeah. But I don't know why people thought he summoned Satan for it.
I don't know. You know what it reminds me of is there's a TV show called Supernatural. It's been on for 15 years.
Sure.
They do a lot of paranormal, supernatural themes, demons, devils, witches, ghosts, whatever. There was a whole story arc where they had to bury a revolver at the crossroads. So they definitely did their homework on that show, and that also reminds me of the crossroads in this particular instance.
Oh, okay.
In order to break a spell, they had to bury this object, this revolver, in the crossroads.
Right. So he probably buried something at the crossroads, and asked for his wish. And it was probably a petition spell is what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also heard that he was involved with a woman, and that her jealous husband was the one who poisoned him. But I don't know if that rumor is true.
Mm-hmm.
But they did say he died from poisoning. And
what's that about his eye, though? It's like obviously he had a slow, or what is it called? A slow eye.
Something it could have just been a medical condition, but it added to the mystique. The way he looked. It's
just interesting that he'd always face that eye away from the audience so that they couldn't see it. So obviously he was either ashamed of it, and I'm sure other people are like, oh my God, it's the devil's eye. That's why it's like that.
Well, that's, and he didn't just, and he probably added to his mystique to let people think these things.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm sure it's good for his career. Oh, that's the guy that sold his soul for the devil for his career. That's why he's so good.
Mm-hmm. And the thing about him is that here's a naturally talented guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if he had to go out of his way to do a spell at the crossroads, people are born under circumstances where they feel that they aren't going to advance.
Yeah.
So he probably did it because he felt that it would help his chances, because he probably was in an area where he didn't have a whole lot of chances to move up.
Yep, I agree.
That's the way I see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you have another one for us?
Yeah, Niccolo Paganini, the musician, the famous classical musician. And nearly 150 years before Johnson's Midnight Pact, another famous musician was accused of bargaining with the devil in exchange for being great musically. Niccolo Paganini, he was born in 1782. He was an Italian violinist. He was a guitarist and a composer, and he was known for his complex pieces and very excellent musicianship. And he began performing publicly at the age of 12, only to collapse under the pressure just 4 years later. He returned to the music scene at age 22, performing complex arrangements of his own creation. Several of the compositions were so demanding that Paganini was the only person alive who could properly play them. As word of his talent spread, so did the rumor that his abilities were the result of an unholy pact. Some even said that they saw Satan on stage with Paganini, assisting the violinist during concerts. Such claims were so widespread, in fact, that Paganini was denied final rites and a proper burial upon his death. It took 36 years after his passing before his body was finally laid to rest in a cemetery in Parma, Italy, a great distance from his home in Genoa.
Wow, so the devil was performing with him on stage so much that they didn't give him a proper burial. That's interesting.
Well, it makes me wonder, that tells to me more about the people who saw him than it does about him. They saw Satan. He was probably just performing.
Well, this one's interesting because I could see where it's not necessarily the traditional Satan sitting next to him on the piano bench.
Right.
Which is what I think you were envisioning.
Or tapping his foot.
Tapping his foot, yeah. He's keeping the rhythm.
I'm sorry, it just made me laugh, that image.
But maybe, how some musicians, especially the ones that are just geniuses at it, they kind of they kind of act crazy when they play. They flip around, their eyes are wide, they make weird expressions. Maybe the audience thought he was like, obviously the devil was with him when he was acting like that. And maybe this could be stuff that they've not normally seen, that when someone performs, they don't act so crazy that they think, oh my God, he's obviously has the devil beside him. Why else is he acting like that?
But it was believed enough where he wasn't even given a proper burial rite.
But maybe they think Satan is with him all the time when he plays. Therefore he doesn't get a proper burial. But in fact, all it is that's what he does himself physically to get to the place to play the music that he does.
Well, what I think people are intimidated by talent. And if somebody has such extreme talent and people are awed by it,
mm-hmm.
I think that is a place where people are going to start rumors if they don't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially if it's an extraordinary talent, if it's extreme, wonderful talent.
And this was 1782. So again, religious fanaticism, superstition, all of this stuff is going to be prominent. So because this guy was really, really being expressive while he's playing, and they thought, oh my God, he's obviously taken with the devil. Every time he plays, this guy is taken with the devil. He must have made a pact with the devil and sold his soul. Therefore, we can't obviously give him a good Christian burial.
Well, and then people claim that they actually saw the devil. So
well, but hysteria. If one person says, "Oh my God, he's possessed by the devil." Right. Oh my God, I think I see the devil. Oh my God, I see it too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And people back then spread stories all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I've heard Paganini's music. I love his music.
Well, there you go. So the devil's playing with him. Maybe he was in the studio with him.
Whether the devil played with him in the studio or not,
Yeah.
Or not studio. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Whether the devil played with him or not, his music is beautiful. I have heard it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another one. I have another one. It's another musician, another violinist, Giuseppe Tartini. He's said to have struck a deal also with the devil. So the legend goes, a dark figure visited Tartini in a dream one night in 1713, and it was the devil offering his services in exchange for the musician's soul. Now, Tartini agreed to the pact, after which the devil scooped up his violin and played the most beautiful song. Now, upon waking, Tartini grabbed his instrument and desperately tried to recreate the song. The result was the Devil's Trill Sonata, which remains one of the most difficult pieces of violin music ever written. Now, observers who witnessed Tartini play the piece were convinced he must have had otherworldly assistance to be able to perform it so perfectly. Tartini, however, was never satisfied with the piece. He maintained that it could not hold a candle to the original tune played by the sinister figure from his dream. So that's interesting, where it's in a dream. So that doesn't necessarily mean he sold his soul to the devil.
No, he just had a dream. Yeah, and he tried to copy what he saw.
Exactly. So it's another, he was given the song in a dream, and then he performed it, but he said it was never as good as it was in his dream by the figure who gave it to him. So I don't know if I would really consider that one selling your soul to the devil.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think that's more of an expression. Oh my God, he plays it so wonderfully. He must have sold his soul to the devil for that one. That kind of thing,
Right. So another one is Urbain Grandier, and he is actually unique in his contract. That his contract actually still exists, and he was a French Catholic priest. He was born in 1590. And he was known for being sexually promiscuous with more than a few nuns. And he was also an outspoken critic of the church's stance on celibacy. No surprise. At some point, several of Grandier's former bedmates accused the priest of witchcraft, claiming that he employed dark magic to lead them into temptation. A trial commenced that resulted in an acquittal. So, France's chief minister, Cardinal Richelieu, he didn't like Grandier. The priest published several withering criticisms about him. So Richelieu ordered a second trial. Grandier was arrested and put through torture during his interrogation. And the evidence, however, came in the form of a document allegedly found among Grandier's belongings. It was a contract written in Latin and covered in strange symbols, which boasted Grandier's signature and the signature of several demons, including Satan himself. The bond promised Grandier the love of women, the flower of virgins, the respect of monarchs, honors, lusts, and powers in exchange for the priest's allegiance. It's unclear if Grandier was forced to sign the document under duress or if it was completely forged by those angling for his demise. In either case, Grandier was found guilty of fraternizing with Satan and sentenced to death. He was burned at the stake in 1634.
Wow, what a way to go.
Wow.
Now, this one's interesting because I think because he was obviously spoke out about being the celibacy, obviously if he was sleeping with nuns, and apparently the nuns agreed with him, I got to wonder if this wasn't a setup, that someone didn't put this document in his belongings, making it clear that, he's in pact with the devil, he sold his soul, that's why he's sleeping with all these nuns, therefore he's possessed by the devil, he's in control, allegiance. This sounds like a setup to me.
It sounds like it to me too, because if he really made a compact. Would he make a compact that he wouldn't get caught either?
that would be like insurance if you sold your soul to the devil.
It's almost like insurance. But here's another thing about that contract is I would like a modern scholar to take a look at that contract and read it and read the symbols and kind of interpret their take on it.
See, I would want handwriting analysis. Were all these signatures written by the same person?
That's a good one too.
So,
as we mentioned, church politics back then were pretty bad.
Yep.
And unfortunately, I hate to say this, but he made trouble for himself by sleeping with nuns, and he came across as kind of a jerk.
Yep.
So, unfortunately...
Heresy.
Unfortunately, people didn't like him, so they decided to get him.
So why would you ever take that position if you fought the whole time against it? Why would you want to be that if that's what you were going to fight against? Seems crazy to me.
I don't get it either.
I don't know. All right, I have another one. This one's Brigadier General Jonathan Moulton. There's a mouthful. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Moulton, born in 1726, was a famed soldier of colonial America, serving in King George's War as well as the French and Indian War. He became one of New England's wealthiest men after his service, which gave way to rumors that the man was in cahoots with the devil. Rumors swirled that General Moulton had struck a financial deal with Satan. In exchange for eternal devotion and retention of his soul, the devil would visit Moulton's home every month and fill his boot with gold. Now, despite such a handsome sum, General Moulton grew greedy. He cut a hole in the floor above his basement, over which he placed his boot with a freshly punched hole in the boot's heel. Moulton may have thought of himself quite clever, but one should never try to outfox the devil. Upon realizing the scheme, the devil burned down Moulton's house along with the gold coins.
Ouch.
Yeah, that one's a little odd, don't you think?
Yeah. Could have been he was just saving money and he wasn't careful.
Yeah. But it's weird to me. That was a little odd.
I mean, how do they know he struck a financial deal with the devil? Did
That's
he
the
say
part
something?
Yeah, that's the part I don't get. Is where's the deal come in?
Yeah, how do they know this?
Yeah.
Did he joke about it? Was he drunk one night and told his bar friends, "Hey, I struck a deal with the devil and I got gold in my boot." I mean,
I got gold in my boot.
So, I mean, or
Satan's my benefactor. He fills my boots with gold.
Or it could have been a rumor because people were jealous of him having a little bit of prosperity, and so they said, "Oh, he must have sold his soul to the devil. He's got gold in his boots."
Yeah, that's what I would always say.
Yeah, that's the way. That's what jealousy does. It spreads rumors and stupid ones too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Now this one is actually a female, Antoine Rose. And she's a woman from the 15th century. She confessed under torture to regularly meet with the devil. And of course, if you're under torture, I'm sure you'll confess to a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
So today she's credited with our modern day image of a witch riding a broomstick. And Rose came to be known as the Witch of Savoy, France. She claimed that she'd been destitute and in dire need of money. Seeking help from her neighbors, she was led to a group of people who convinced her to ask the devil for help. The devil appeared and agreed to assist the struggling woman, so as long as she rejected God and worshiped him instead. The devil also gave her a stick, 1.5 feet in length, and a small pot of ointment. She was to smear a bit of ointment on the stick, place the stick between her legs, and say, "Go, in the name of the devil, go." In her confession, Rose described some of the tributes the worshippers paid to the devil, including dancing and feasting and kissing the devil's hindquarters when he appeared in the physical form of a large black dog. Rose also stated that the devil had a low, raspy voice in human form and that she was terrified of him the first time they met.
So she kissed a dog's ass.
She kissed a dog's butt.
So what I want to know is this all to make a broom fly?
Okay.
Because according to this, if you rub the ointment on the stick, put the stick between your legs, and say, "Go in the name of the devil, go," you want it to fly.
Okay, now remember, she said this under torture. Now, there are some old recipes from some old-time herbalists that have been preserved. Mm-hmm. There's a recipe known as flying ointment.
Fly ointment or flying?
Flying ointment, not fly.
I'm sorry, I had to clarify there.
Yeah, and flying ointment was used to astral travel. So you would sit back, you would put the ointment on your temples, and you would go out of your body, and you would pretend, and you would astral travel. It was made with plants that were meant to make you hallucinate.
I wonder if there was some kind of hallucinogenic drug that on the skin. Do you know what I mean?
Right, because the herbs were made with that ointment. So they did it as the old herbal healers and people who practiced magic, old time hedgewood magic, would use the flying ointment to go on astral traveling, and they did it so that they could get dreams and visions and ideas and bring it back and use it. So. But she probably was under torture, so she probably just told them what they wanted.
Well, it's interesting. Again, herbalist, forest, all the herbs, what they do together, what the mixes are, the outcome of using them. It sounds like this is another thing where someone's doing something with ointments or mixtures, and then they create some kind of the church, the spiritual politics creates a demon or a devil from the outcome of using these herbs. Like, obviously, if she's using these herbs, she's trying to make an object fly, or
right.
It always comes back to the devil, and that's what the devil controls her. She has to deal with the devil because she uses these herbs and ointments that she's created.
Right. So. And to claim that she contacted the devil because she was struggling, I don't know. I mean, these all sound like comments under torture, claiming he had her low, raspy voice. They danced and they kissed a dog's butt. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, all right, tell the court you kissed a dog's ass, correct? I mean, if you're being tortured, like, I kissed the dog's butt. What do you want?
Right, because it's so different than the herb women who actually did study that stuff and never talked about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, under torture, you'll say anything.
Right.
So I think that's probably what happened to her.
Yeah, that's what I think that's all about.
She was probably a really good herbalist, and they just obviously went the opposite direction.
Right. They decided to make it sound like she was doing all kinds of nasty stuff.
Yep, with the devil. I have one more for us. It's Christoph Haseman. He was born in 1651 or 52. Johann Christoph Haseman. He was a painter who allegedly sold his soul to the devil after the death of his parent. In exchange for relief from poverty and depression, Haseman agreed to be the early son of the devil for 9 years. Now afterward, Haseman's body and soul would pass into the devil's hands. Haseman claimed that he signed 2 documents confirming the pact, one penned in ink and the other in his own blood. And as the due date approached, the painter grew worried. In 1577, he sought help from a Catholic priest who performed an exorcism on the young man. The ritual soothed Haseman's troubled mind. He had a vision in which he successfully retrieved the pact penned in blood. Soon thereafter, Haseman sought to annul the link written contract. He secured a second exorcism in 1678, which succeeded in calming his nerves. Now, Haseman continued to paint after the exorcisms, creating several pieces that depicted his encounters with the devil. Such works illustrated Haseman's journal entries that described his infernal visions. Toward the end of his life, Haseman joined the Brothers Hospitallers of St. John of God. He died in 1700. It said that Haseman was frequently visited by the devil and other demonic beings who tried to tempt him away from his newfound life of piety. Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
It sounds to me like someone who's obsessed, who, I don't know, maybe people accused him of making a deal with the devil, and he had to question himself, like, did I do that? And then his entire life, obviously it's on his mind, am I going to go to hell? And he paints the devil in his artwork, and he has dreams.
Well, as you notice, this is another person in poverty who summoned the devil to help.
Yep. I mean, he was grieving, he was depressed, he was poverty, he was poor. So, yeah, I mean, again, written in blood. The contract's written in blood. I would be curious to find out, go back and research and find out where that originally came from.
Yeah, why they did their contracts in blood and why some of it was written, if he really did it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, some of these contracts exist, some of them don't. That one religious figure, his contract existed, but they can't find it for this one. This guy just claimed he did.
Yeah.
He sought 2 priests to exorcise him, so obviously he had a feeling of guilt. But this also brings me to the idea that when you're in poverty and you're struggling, you're in a frame of mind where you're doing anything to get out of it, and then once you're better, you'll find that you did something stupid.
Mm-hmm. To me, this seems like a struggle with faith, not necessarily selling your soul to the devil.
Right.
He was just literally his entire life struggling with faith.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept thinking he was, that's why he had the exorcisms,
Mm-hmm.
thinking they would drive out these things he was thinking about. Is he evil? Let's have an exorcism and let's cleanse me. And obviously it so worried him the whole time of his life. I think that's due to the depression.
It's due to the depression, but it's also due to his environment. I mean, he's struggling with poverty. He decides that he's gonna he's looking for a way out, so
Mm-hmm.
he's summoning up supposedly the devil to help him because he's desperate.
Yep.
And then he realizes because of his upbringing and the environment that he probably did something very stupid, and he's trying to atone for it. But apparently he was okay afterwards.
He was okay, but he still incorporated the devil into his paintings. He still thought about it his entire life until he died.
Yeah,
so.
it was on his mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
This is why I think it was a struggle of faith.
Mm-hmm.
And he was torturing himself the whole time. Maybe that's, if it was the devil, maybe that was the devil's point is, this is what I'm going to do to you. You're going to torture yourself the whole time.
Now, it's said that he was frequently visited, so he either told that or he... Somebody thought so.
But maybe could be visiting in a dream.
Could be.
Because I noticed a lot of times when people used to say, I was visited by so-and-so and so-and-so several times, they visit them in their sleep, they visit them in their dreams.
Right.
So it may not necessarily mean the physical sense that he was visited by the devil, but
right.
Who's to say? We don't have any more information.
And it could be that the guy was a really good astral traveler and he visited all kinds of realms where he ran across these strange beings and they were in his dreams, and so he thought, uh-oh, it's the devil again.
Yeah.
So, but at any rate, I'm glad that even though he was visited with guilt, I'm glad that he died in peace. Yep. Didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
But he still, tortured himself. Nobody else can really, obviously now you could help them deal with that, but then
there was no psychology or no therapy.
Nope.
Now, what's your opinion? Do you think that somebody can really sell their soul to the devil?
I think someone who's so obsessed with religion and the idea could convince themselves they have sold their soul to the devil.
Right.
Do I think it's actually, truthfully, something can happen? No. I don't think it's something that can happen. I think... Again, religion and spirituality, it's faith. So is the paranormal. It's a faith in something. Not everyone's going to believe in it. Mm-hmm. And you have your own experiences,
mm-hmm.
faith and the paranormal.
Sure.
That you know to yourself what's real and what you believe in. But whether you can convince someone else, that's obviously religion. That's that part of what that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Is finding other people to get faith
mm-hmm.
in what you believe in. And I think this selling your soul to the devil, it's someone who's very, very, very strictly belief in God and the devil, and that the devil will give me what I want. I'm so desperate, but if I'm desperate and the devil will give it to me, all I have to do is sell my soul and pay my allegiance to him. And it's almost like voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
You buy into it, and the more you buy into it, the more power you give it. Not necessarily that there is a real power there, but the power is in the belief on both sides. That is the real power.
My take is that the idea doesn't seem to make any sense. For one thing, your soul is your own. You can't sell it to anything or anybody. Yeah,
then that's a very good point. Like, how would you do that?
And here's another take on that. Why would somebody want it? Why would somebody want your soul?
I know.
Yeah, why would somebody want it? I mean, let's put it this way. I wouldn't want somebody's soul. I have enough trouble with my own.
Well, now here's a good question for you.
Yeah.
Do you consider the life essence also the soul?
Yes.
So if there's life essence, the amazing thing that is life essence that's put into your body, and your body is alive and moving because of that, it might be valuable in some sense somewhere else.
Okay, that's true too. But
You know what I'm saying?
That's true too. But if supposedly these beings can give you all you need, why would they need your life essence?
Maybe it's delicate. Maybe it's a rarity, and maybe there's only so many. Maybe they're giving out in so many certain places. I have no answers for you.
Yeah, but these are good questions because.
Oh, absolutely.
Because and also it comes down to it. I don't feel it's possible. I feel that you can weaken yourself. You can weaken your auric field. You can weaken yourself by doing all kinds of things that weaken your spirit.
But I
don't think you could sell it, actually.
But I think if you proclaimed, "I sold my soul to the devil so that things will get better," you could convince yourself psychologically that you sold your soul, that your soul is black and it's dead and it's empty, and you could do damage to your own body. You would stop eating, you would go into a depression. So there are things you can do to yourself because of that, but I agree, I don't think you can sell something that you can't 100% positively prove that exists.
Right. And I think that religious figures such as a priest or even a rabbi would be the ones who would be able to tell you what they've learned while they were training for religious training. Because I bet you anything that training like that, they have those in the lessons. They don't talk about it much. They talk about exorcism in the Catholic.
Catholicism.
In Catholicism,
Yep.
yeah, but I don't know about.
Well, let's think of it this way.
Yeah.
You always hear about priests giving your soul to God, right? Giving him your love, giving him your soul.
Yeah.
Giving your soul up for God. Well, of course, look at it as the church. There's good and there's bad. So you're giving your soul up for God for good. So the devil, he also wants you to give up your soul to his allegiance. So it sounds very church created and very dogma created.
Right.
Selling your soul to the devil. It's a dogma to me. It's very dogma.
That's how I feel about it too.
It's to control people. Like, don't you dare say you're going to give your soul to Satan, that you'll get everything you want. It's almost like, what did they say, glutton? It's very glutton.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what that comes from. That'll be so glutton of you if you sold your soul and got everything you ever wanted. Greedy, yes.
Greedy, yeah.
That's where I think that probably comes from. That's my guess.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think that it has to do also with society. People are not trusting in what the church or what society is teaching them about being pious or being a good person. So they go out of their way to do something opposite of what they're supposed to be doing, because they think, well, I'm not getting anything the other way, and then later they're guilty about it.
And you think if you're all wrapped around religion for the good of God, again, like you said, there's only one other option, and that's the devil. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, oh, maybe the other third option is you don't buy into either one of them. Mm-hmm. But that wasn't really something that people had.
No. And there's also other religions where they don't really talk about that. It's mainly, I don't even hear about that in the Jewish religion. I just hear about that in mainly the church. Yeah. The church, and I don't hear about it in Jewish or pagan religions. No. Again,
apparently torture is more popular in Christian religion.
Yeah.
But that's that,
Yeah. So my end conclusion is that you really can't sell your soul. It belongs to you, and I don't think anybody can take it no matter how hard they try. But that's just me. Okay, here's a question for you. All right. If, let's say it did exist, that you could sell your soul for everything you ever wanted, Verna. Yeah. If someone offered for you to sell your soul to the devil to get everything you wanted for the rest of your life, would you do that? No.
You would not do that?
No. Would you?
No. I don't feel the need to do that.
I don't either.
I mean, yes, I would love everything I ever wanted, to live comfortably, to have money, endless comfort that you never have to worry about how you're going to live your life and what's going to happen to you. But I think we make our own lives. So if you want that, you'll make it. I don't need the devil to help me do that.
Me too. That's how I feel about it.
If I believed in that, which I don't.
Yeah. The way I feel is that you have a lot of gifts already inherent in you. Mm-hmm. And you can tune into those gifts that I mean, I don't consider myself an extremely religious person, but I've studied enough I have my own spiritual beliefs where I feel that you have your inherent gifts and you have your inherent character where you can do it yourself. You don't need to call upon an outside entity to come and give you what you need.
No.
I mean, an outside entity that you have to sign a contract or you're going to pay for it later. You don't need to do that. You've got it in you already.
Well, I think about 1700s now.
Oh, yeah.
Right. These people, if you're poor mm-hmm. and you have nothing and no one and your family's gone and you have no future, nothing ahead of you, mm-hmm. the church looks pretty good. Housing, food, repetition, mm-hmm. and a way of life. So you really don't have much choices. They didn't have a lot of choices.
They didn't have a lot of choices back then, no. I've been poor and impoverished myself. And
St. Verna?
No. I've been poor and impoverished. And I know that when you're poor and you're impoverished, you are in a different frame of mind where you take jobs that aren't good for you. Mm-hmm. You take help from people who aren't necessarily have your best interests in mind. I do know that your mind can weaken when you're in that state. I do know that.
Yeah.
But I think having to do something where you know you're going to pay for it later.
That's called credit cards, right?
Well, that's good. It is like a credit card.
Maybe the credit cards are deals with the devil.
That's a good way of putting it. It's kind of like a credit card, but it's like a spiritual credit card.
Yeah.
But
pay for something, get something now and pay for it later.
Yeah, that's like a spiritual credit card mm-hmm. almost. I agree with you, but
so is it Visa, MasterCard, and Lucifer? Do you take Lucifer or Visa, MasterCard?
or as we said earlier, it's kind of like an insurance. You know, I mean, if somebody's going to make a deal with you, you make a deal back, saying, okay, you know, I won't get caught or all this other stuff, but. You know, I don't even think you need to do that. American
Express, Discover, or Beelzebub. Do you take Beelzebub?
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm wondering if there's anybody out there who's ever did a contract with the devil or knows somebody who did, I'd like to hear about it.
And what happened afterwards?
Yeah, what happened?
I would love to have a person on the show that's had that happen and if they've had experiences afterwards.
Right, somebody modern day, yeah.
Yeah, that would be an interesting show.
A modern day experience.
That'd be a great show.
Yeah. So if anybody's out there, you're hearing this show, contact us. We'd like to hear about it.
Send an email to ectoportal@yahoo.com. We'd love to get that person on the air, have a show.
Yeah, be great.
All right, that was an interesting show.
Yeah.
Something we've never really talked about on Ecto Portal.
I don't think I've heard anybody else talk about it either.
3 years of our show, we've never actually discussed that.
No.
So there you go. Something new all the time.
Yep.
All right, folks. That's it for this week. And until next week, we're going to say goodbye. Bye.
Bye. See you next week.
Royalty-free, copyright-free music by Kevin MacLeod and Ross Bugden.